but it's a name enshrined in computing now for 25 years. It's called a static method. It's a method that's not called on an object. Ladies and gentlemen, a static method is called on a class. It's called on a class. And there's no this. There ain't no this there. There aren't no there this. It's a method which without an object to refer to. It's not called in an object. It's just called. It's like sine. You call sine of x. It's not called in an object. You just say, give me the sine of 0.3 radians, and it will give you back a number, right? Give me the square of 3.141592627, and it will give you the square. You say, give me the square root of 36. It will give you square root of 36. Those don't have to be called on a method. There's no need for a method to call them. They're just, they don't require that information. So this is what are called static methods. And generally, if it doesn't need to be called on an object, you declare it static. And ladies and gentlemen, I have a confession to make. I have a testimonial to make. Because I have abused your trust. And my abuse of your trust, if I'm not mistaken, I suspect this method, ladies and gentlemen, establish offspring connections based on babies' connections. Ladies and gentlemen, do you see a reference standing before that? Oh, that's a Java bug. Oh, that was an AnyLogic bug. Moving right along. Do you see a reference to this anywhere? SPY-U? With a little I or big, a reference to this? Is there a reference to this in here? Does this code need to refer to this? Establish offspring connections based on mother's connections. Remember, it takes two things as arguments, a child and a mother, reference to a child, reference to a mother. Those are two variables. And then it says, okay, if the mother has some connections, we go through each of the connections, we connect them to the baby. And then we connect the mother to the baby. Do you see any reference to this here? Okay, there is a this here, but do we need it? No, we don't need it. So, ladies and gentlemen, we don't require this to be in fact a method and an object. There's no need for this. And so we could actually declare this what? That's what I mean by abusing your trust. I was sort of leaving open you to the idea that those are regular methods. Those are in fact static methods, okay? They could be static methods. We don't need, in fact, the sort of one of the indications are, ladies and gentlemen, look at the code for perform birth. Are we calling them this dot, are we calling it, like, are we giving an object dot establish offspring connection? No, we're just calling it. So implicitly what's going on here is that there's a this dot, but we don't need that. It has all the information it needs with these two pieces of information, true or not? Just like sine is all the information it needs with the value it has, just like square root, a square, what have you. So this is all the information it needs. We don't need it to be called in an object, so we can make it a static method. Okay? It's associated with person still, but we don't need to call it with any sort of reference to this. You got all the information you need, and it's giving me a little bit of a wee complaint here. Let's go see what it's saying here. Oh, you know what it's saying. Oh, darn it. Oh man, my life is thrown into. Okay, so okay, so there's a wee inconvenience here. So I made this both static. And it turns out that I spoke too quickly. So actually, ladies and gentlemen, there's a thing that says get main. And guess what? to get main, I need, what is this implicitly? It's this dot get main. So I actually need, in order to get a reference to the main class, the current main object, I need a this. And so this guy can't be static, in fact, after all, because this guy needs this. The other one doesn't, apparently. And it just needs it to get this dumb parameter. Well, I'd be tempted to move this parameter value into the person class, and then I don't need to get the main, and then this could be a static method. But those are two complications, and that's why AnyLogic was complaining. Does that make sense? In short, ladies and gentlemen, there's things called static methods, and there are things like sine, cosine, square root, etc. Things that don't need a method. And so, like, if you have a table function, something we saw this last time, right? Maps from, in that case, a certain time or date on the one hand to a value. Remember we saw that for the historic data during calibration. That's how we encoded the historic data. Very convenient. Does that need an object? Do we have to call this on an object, the table function? Like, do we have to ask an object? Does it need to know this to get some more information, or is all that's needed to pass it a value, it returns a value? That's all that's needed. It doesn't need to know anything about an object. All I need is right there in front of us. It knows the compilation scheme and so on. It doesn't need to know about this. And so we don't actually need to specify this at all. This is static. Okay? It's static. It doesn't need to depend on it. So if that isn't too unsettling, that was one very unsettling thing. Okay. There's one other thing I want to talk with you about. So we've talked about how we build up hierarchies of abstraction. So, perform birth calls establish offspring connections based on mother's connection, we call connect to, right? We might have a fraction of contacts at smoke method that might count smoking contacts and count contacts and divide the two of them. So we count our total contacts, we count the number of smoking contacts, we divide one by the other to get the fraction of our contacts at smoke, right? Straightforward. If you might have count men, and you might have a method called count women, and both of them could call off to a method, say, count the number of people of sex, whatever. So in short, we build these kind of hierarchies